So sorry I'm running a little late. Hot button Monday. You got your boy tonight. I'm DV. I'm Dozy of Dialogue with Dozy. To everybody in Dozy Land, how are you? Welcome aboard the Dialogue. Listen, tonight we have scheduled Tim Johnson. He's a senior vice president. He is of the Jacksonville Sharks. I'm trying to see where this is. Have to make an adjustment to the cap. He's the senior vice president of Jacksonville Sharks. He is quite a charismatic personality, and for whatever reason, he is not on yet. We're hoping that he will be back on. KV is not with us. So you got your boy, and right now, if our guests don't sign on, it's just going to be Hot Button Monday, and we'll make it happen. Okay? The show started with just me sitting in front of a Facebook camera, and my daughter and her marvelous team from moregogiggacreations.com join on and marketed us, make those wonderful posters that you see every week. They do all of the work that you see to help make this a quality presentation. I want to start out tonight with giving shout outs to, well, you know what? I'll just hold on to the shout out. I'll give the shout out at the halfway mark, and I'll communicate with the team and let them know who I'm shouting out along the way. Tonight's Hot Button Monday. Right now, we don't know where Tim is. I don't think Kim's going to make it, so we'll just make it happen. We know how to do that. We can make it happen. We've done it before. Like I say, it started out. It was just me in front of a camera. A whole lot more of you at the time because the world was on lockdown. It was a pandemic, and so that's kind of what I want to start out talking about now. I kind of want to talk about where we are compared to where we were this time 2 years ago. This time to where we were 2 years ago, in the throes of a pandemic. I was going to say a worldwide pandemic, but pandemic means that it's worldwide. We were in the midst of a pandemic, and just kind of want to talk about where we are. And I'm trying to get this light adjusted, trying not to make it too hot in here. But so, where were you in the midst of the pandemic? What were you doing? What was your initial feelings during the pandemic? What were your expectations? What did you think was happening? Yeah, Fern, it is a great topic. And we were hoping that, I don't know, producers talked to Tim today. I talked to him earlier, and we were looking for him, but he's not anywhere to be found right now. He's not. We can't reach him in any source. So right now we're just going to kind of pick up and do Hot Button Monday. I don't think Kim's going to join that. He's on a mission, and I don't think he's going to be off. So where were you in the middle when this pandemic first started? What was your first impression of it? I'm gonna tell you what it was for me. I was in Jacksonville with my family, my mother, and I do business with my mother, and I was up there, and what was supposed to have been a 1 or 2 day thing turned to like 2 weeks. And of course, if I'm there, I'm not here with my wife, and we have an empty nest. So when the project I was working on came to an end, I just, I said, let me get my butt on back down the road and get home to the wife. And my mom was happy with what we had accomplished and everything that was going on. And I don't know why this light is not lighting up today. It's not giving a full effect. I don't want to be any hotter, but I don't want to be sitting in the dark. So the night before I left was when we were first hearing about things closing and changes in the world or locally. Locally for me at that point was Jacksonville. And I was hearing, of course, Fort Lauderdale was one of the first places in Florida that had a reported case of the virus. And so I knew what I was coming to. And my mother wanted to bless me by taking me to a steakhouse. And we had just seen on the local news, I think it's Channel 4 News up in Jacksonville, that the businesses were closing. And so I called the Longhorn Steakhouse where we normally go. to ascertain if they were still open, and they said, "Yeah, yeah, we're open, absolutely. Come on over." So we are no further than 10, 15 minutes away, and when we got there, and I'm one of these guys who likes to eat his food hot. I like to eat it fresh. I don't like to take out my food, especially my main. If you're talking about fast food, which I try not to eat, um, but if you're talking about a Philly cheesesteak from Miami Grills, that's a different thing. But I don't want to eat a nice 3-course meal. I don't want to take it back and warm it up. It just loses the effect of it. So when we got there, 10 minutes later, the guy said, "We just received our order from the city, and we're told that we're at capacity now." They probably had 12 people in there, and they were spread out. She said, "And so we cannot have anybody else. We'll be glad to get your food on the table." I said, "No, no, thank you." I really was disappointed, and so we left. Little did I know that was the beginning of a different world. To borrow from the TV program, that was the beginning of a different world. So I came back. I rushed back to South Florida to attend a funeral that early that morning, and I was just talking to a gentleman who said that probably the funeral that I was rushing back to attend was probably a person who was a victim of COVID, and before we ever know what was going on, he went to the hospital suddenly, and he was gone suddenly. So that's where I was, and that's how that was my genesis of the pandemic. Now, Fern, I'm trying to lean in. Uh, you did your normal life. Do your shots and continue with your life. I had I had no serious fears. I trusted in God and science. Okay, Fern, I'm with you 100% for trusting in God, of course. I'm a preacher of the gospel. No problem with that. But I also know that I have two life-threatening illnesses, one more imminent than the other. And my wife basically put me on lock, as they say. So everything was closed. The Inverary golf course where Jackie Gleason used to play, where the Inverary tournament was held, was closed. And so one of my preacher and golf friends of mine, we would go down and walk the golf course 3 days a week. We would walk both courses. It's an east and a west course. And we walked the golf course, and oh my gosh, that was like the greatest thing in the world, because other than that, I was sitting home and looking at reruns of Scandal or whatever was on TV, First Take and those kinds of things. And goodness, if I ran a half a block down the street to Publix, that was like to going on a field trip. And I would go down to the reservation or go down to the Hard Rock. They had the cheapest gas. Of course, I wasn't using much gas because I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. But going down there to get the gas up my tank, which would last 3 months, was almost like going on a road trip to the Northeast. You all know that's one of my favorite places to go. So that was what the pandemic did to me. I was under strict orders, lock and key, by my wife to stay in this house because of my medical conditions, my ongoing medical conditions. I trust God. I believe God. I know my brother, Kim, and his family. He and Donna, they moved around. My dear wife, who works in the medical field, uh, was what I call ground zero every day. She was on ground zero, and by the grace of God, she's never come down with COVID. She hasn't. Kim and my sister-in-law, my sister Donna, haven't. And glad to hear that about you, Fern. You never had it. Um, but I've recently had two friends who never had COVID. They were not, they didn't believe in vaccinating. Well, one of them did. One of them, in fact, works in the Dade County school system. One of them been a guest on our show, and both of them been on the show. And the other person just was an anti-vaxxer. And in the last 6 weeks, both of them have come down with COVID. And the female version of those guys came down with it real severe. And Omicron is not one of the most serious uh, variants of it. Thankfully, people survive it. Less people are hospitalized. It has interruptions in your schedule and in your life, if no more than the quarantine. But they survived it. But the young lady When we thought she had put her time in and was recovering, lo and behold, she was sick again, and it hit her real hard. So she had about 10 or 11 hard days of dealing with COVID. Um, Unfortunately, it's kind of depressing to talk about it. It was about this time last year. I came down with it on August the 4th. Um, I had to have someone preach for me because I had a cough, and then it hit me full fledged, just like a severe case of the flu. I was I was weak. My eyes were like you know how your eyes get in the midst of the flu. Um, that's how it was, and you can't see. So I had that, and then I was weak as water. I had to grab walls to get to the bathroom. I could not walk. That bothered me because I'm in good shape, and I followed every direction. If I went to Publix, well, anywhere I would encounter touching anything or was around anybody, I used maximum caution, gloved up, mask up. It really worked on me psychologically. And then when I overcame the initial effects of it, thank God a year later I'm in a different shape. When I overcame the initial effects of COVID, that first 3 or 4 days, then it turned into, I had the Delta variant. It turned into dizziness. And it was not just dizziness. I was strong, healthy, everything else fine, but I had debilitating dizziness. And I don't know if you've ever been dizzy. I got hurt in a police car in 1984, and that was the lingering effect of that for about 2 or 3 years of my life. I had the dizziness. But when you're dizzy, no matter what shape you're in, it just neutralizes you. You can't do anything. And so from August until October, I had the effect, even though I tested negative after about 3.5 weeks, I tested negative. Um, I still had the intermittent dizziness. I wasn't dizzy every day. I wasn't dizzy all day. I'd have spells where I'd be dizzy for six hours, sometime a couple hours, sometime an hour. But boy, when I had it, it was debilitating. So it's real. I mean, we can be macho like the ex-president who came down with it, and I read the books, and he played macho and act like it was of no effect to him. Well, it was really serious. It was almost touch and go, as was the assassination of President Reagan in 1981, I think it was, when he was shot, and it was much worse than we knew about it. And only years after did we know how serious that assassination attempt was on his life. Um, that's how it was with the former president when he came down with COVID. So I attribute it to vaccinating and basically trying to do everything else I was supposed to. But it was a different time in our history. And here's what I really wanted to get to. To those of us who isolated and stayed in the house, uh, it turned our lives around. I fell in love with a couple TV series. I was turned on to All American and fell in love with it. The reruns of All American and Netflix was just great. And there was another program that I totally fell in love with called Imposters. And I binged, I think it was 2 seasons. I binged it. And when I learned that it wasn't coming back on, man, was I disappointed. So it was a time for us to kind of be intimate, to kind of think through some things, had some time alone with God without the hustle and bustle of life, had time alone with yourself to kind of do some planning. For me, I'm a writer. I had a chance to sit down and do some writing. It was a good time in those ways. Yes, Kim turned me on the Yellowstone and I got to tell you about it. I'll tell you about that in a minute. We'll talk about TV in a minute. But it was a great time, but it was also the strangest of times. Fern and Mia reminded you of 1968. 1968 was uh, the craziest year of my life up until 2020. 1968, April the 4th, of course, we were having race riots across the country. Then on April the 4th, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the Lorraine Hotel balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. That sparked more, uh, more, that sparked more shootings and more riots is what I'm trying to say. That sparked more race riots. And then before we could get through the shock and grief of losing Dr. King, about 6 weeks later on June the 6th, Bobby Kennedy was shot after winning the California primary, and then he died on the 8th of June, a full day that morning. And for me, what was I? 11-year-old kid, an ideologue, a political junkie. That's how I was raised to be, sitting under my dad. Uh, I lost all hope and faith in America. As did Jackie Kennedy. She got out of Dodge. She left and moved over to was it England she moved to? Where did Jackie move to? She left Greece. She went over to Greece and where she married Onassis. She left the nation. She said that this country was Kennedys were allergic to this country or whatever. So it was a crazy year. It was a crazy year. It just transformed normal life. But wow, 2020, in the midst of a pandemic, we also had worldwide protests. I say worldwide protests. The worldwide protests because of first the shooting in Georgia by those vigilantes who killed, I can never remember the young man's name, who was killed while jogging through a community. And that came to light, and before we could even deal with that, the tragedy that we saw on TV bared out in front of our very eyes. Anytime you turn to the TV or internet, you saw the images of George Floyd having his life choked out of him. And so the worldwide protests, and Fern, I know you'll like this part. The thing I liked about it was that, Toya, I'm gonna do the have those pictures that we had for the poster, have those ready for halftime, and we're gonna do a shout out with them. But the thing I liked about that firm, even though that was it could have been really painted as a cruel act of racism, and who knows what caused it, the protests, even though the current president tried to make out like it was Black Lives Matter and Antifa conspiring to riot in our streets, and this nut over in Tallahassee now, he passed a law which robbed America one of its basic freedoms, the right to protest. So now people are scared to march, which made a lot of social change in the 60s. Because if you're marching and someone drops they could drop a cell phone and it cracks and glasses on the street, you basically can have everybody arrested for rioting. That's the kind of climate that we now live in. That's what, Lord knows, I hope we don't have to do another 4 years of him. And goodness knows, I hope we don't have to ever see him sniffing anywhere near the White House. We had enough of that over the last 6 years. But anyway, the point I was trying to make was, we really, hey, Mac, what's up, bro? We really had, in spite of everybody saying everything about racism and everything, those marches were predominantly led by white folk. And that gave me a brand new appreciation for America. Just about when you got a president saying there's good people on both sides, when you got people wearing SWAT stickers and saying Jews will not replace us. That's how many of the white supremacists feel now about blacks. That's how you have replacement theory, which we're going to bring John Newman on and talk about in 3 or 4 weeks. That was when you got a president playing to that base and bringing all of these people out of the woodwork and exposing America for what it really was. You had good-hearted people that were protesting together, locked arm in arm, color, gender, sexual orientation, age, none of those things matter. It was just people coming together. I like to say Americans coming together and protesting against protesting against what was a supreme injustice that was laid out for the entire world to see. Fern, let me catch some of you, and I really appreciate your comments, so I don't have to do all this talking. Let me lean in. Let's see, do our shots and continue. And I like, okay, I do understand, though, even folk, vax and boosters still can get a lesser version. You're absolutely right about that. I believe that the reason that mine was because it wasn't Omicron, it was Delta, and people were still dying of Delta at that time. I think that that what are you saying, Fern? Viagra is seriously bad. No, I'm just joking. It says uh, uh, whatever it means for business is seriously bad. Fought it for about 20. Oh my gosh, physical therapy helped me. Oh man, that's horrible. We're gonna talk about Yellowstone in a minute. Dude, that's the way I feel now. Our country is in serious peril. No, though I honestly feel this is serious misinformation. DeSantis is not trying to denounce all non-whites. What he is trying to do, Fern, if you're going to push me to talk about him, I know Kim hates when I talk about politics. DeSantis is Trump on steroids. And I didn't mean kind of call that other clown's name. He's that guy on steroids playing to a racist, a homophobic, a elitist base that has been energized by the guy who won the presidency in 2016. And so he's that guy on steroids making policies. So now he's down here in Miami, the Wentwood district. And I don't know, maybe people want to do a show on orientation or homosexuality and that kind of stuff. I've been staying away because some of our sponsors or we've been kind of told to just kind of put that on hold. But there's Wynwood is an artistic district, artistic district in Miami, right off of downtown Miami, and this guy has gone there and picked a fight with a particular oriented bar that's particularly oriented, and he's found every ways to make it off basis. We can talk about morals. The kind of leadership that he's brought to this state has been totally immoral. Putting people in jail for protesting, immoral. Flushing back voting rights that my ancestors died for, immoral. Putting people in jail for drinking water, for handing out water in a voting line, immoral. He has just gone on steroids. If you remember how he got elected, he basically, and gosh, I can't use the language on air. My mom won't let me use the language. Anyway, but I'll just say that he kissed up to Donald Trump, and that's not what I'm want to say. I want to say something much worse than that. He basically kissed up to Donald Trump by having his little son looking at pictures of him, and that's what got him elected. This state, which has turned to a crazy state, basically fell in love with that. And he's gotten in office and been totally, he's played to that base. And it's so unfortunate, Mac, I want to hear you weigh in on this. Fern is saying that this guy is, I don't think our country is in such a horrible position. I think that people are, you get to a point where you're just saying, I can't take this no more. I've been through this before. We're past this stuff, and why are we going back through it? Because you got a politician that's awakening a base that'll go out and vote to put him in office or put a governor in office. That's where I think it is. Every agitation does not mean that our nation is in peril. Sometimes the agitation is like, if you got an injury, I've had broken bones, I've had stitches in my life being an athlete. And every time the itching started, it meant that the healing process was taking place. So sometimes agitation, it may seem like it's when you hear people say no justice, no peace, it takes some things to transform. Heck, this nation was formed on that. The Boston Tea Party, we protested. We protested against the crown, and that's how we became an independent nation. So if you want to say that was peril, I just think every time we protest, it's not peril. Hey, up against a hard break. Let's hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back at the dialogue. Time flies when you're having fun. I don't know where Tim is. Hope to have him back. in that advice in advertisement. Thank you. This is the group that makes us look good every week, and frankly, kind of help keep us going. Excuse me, helps to keep us going because of uh, their professional presentation that they give. They do the same for New Life, the Church Without Walls, and I guess you saw some of the people they produce for. I guess you saw Anthony Hamilton and BET and others. This is a professional outfit. I know the world is opened up, and so we're not doing as many things virtually. But if you need any virtual needs, moreGoGigaCreations.com. That's your team. GoGigaCreations.com. That's my daughter. Yes, I'm shouting her out. My daughter and her team, Makia, Latoya, and that group. Toy that group, bring them to the table and let them make you look good virtually. That's GoGigaCreations.com. Excuse me. Now, I want to give a shout out, even though our guest is not here today. I want to give a shout out. We don't know what happened. We'll reschedule him. We're scheduled out for the next month, which we had to get up and kind of do this thing right like we used to. But we'll get Tim Johnson back on. It would have just been timely. The Jacksonville Sharks Arena League football team. The Jacksonville Sharks Arena League football team. I left the playoff game on Saturday night in mid game. I left at the halftime. I had to go and had to go to the store, and I really forgot to turn it back on. And I didn't hear from my brother Anthony, so I pretty much knew. I didn't see him texting. I pretty much knew what the outcome was, and when I heard it was a 1-point loss, I said, "Oh my gosh!" But we shout the Sharks out because they continuously, whatever arena league that they're in, they always have the best attendance. They always sell it out. They have the best management team. I don't know what happened to Tim tonight. I'm going to have to give him a pass tonight. Tim has been promoting and managing sports teams in the Jacksonville network since we were little boys with the Jacksonville Suns, a AA baseball team. And he worked, I think, with the T-Men and with the hockey team. And yeah, I think he may have had a position with the Jags at one point. They're well managed. And Jacksonville is a community that loves its football. And so the Jacksonville Sharks has filled that need. And they have been the winner that the Jaguars the Jaguars are trying to be. Even though the Jags have been to two AFC championship games, and the last one a few years ago against Tom Brady, they came within a couple of controversial calls of going to the Super Bowl that year. On the other hand, the Sharks have won 2 titles. They won 2 Arena League titles, and they came 1 point away from advancing to the championship game this year. They have a rabid fan base. They're well managed. We're going to get Tim on in the upcoming weeks and talk about it. So I don't want to put off, but shout out to them on a successful season. I know the feeling may not be good after having come up a point short and having the season end the way it did. But shout out to Tim Johnson and all of those and every fan of the Jacksonville Sharks Arena League football team. You guys rock, and we appreciate you. Now, back to the dialogue. Mac is saying, oh, Mac, don't say that. I can't even read that. He's saying that clown in Tallahassee could very well be president because the Democrats are so decisive. You're absolutely right about that, Mac. And I hope that you are wrong, but your initial diagnosis is 100% right. That's a worry of mine. Even ex-Republicans who are now independents, that the former guy kind of pushed into becoming independents because his brand of politics was so divisive and so unprofessional and so immoral and so non-integral. Even they're saying that the Democrats say the Republicans have no platform, but they know how to win elections because they know how to be aggressive and mudsling whatever they have to do. But the Democrats indeed are divisive. So here's the question I'm wondering. Should Joe Biden run again? Joe Biden is 79 now, I think, and will be 82 at the end of his term. And he has a very unpopular vice president, and that's so unfortunate because that's such hopes of Kamala Harris. I know the Republicans despise her, and so she may be a political liability for him. So I just wonder, should Joe run again? That's my question. Should he even run again? And if he doesn't, then who? Should it be Pete Buttigieg? Buttigieg is the Secretary of Transportation, and by all accounts, he's doing a great job for the nation as a Secretary of Transportation. But the question is America prepared to elect a gay president? He did an outstanding job as the mayor of that Indiana city. He did a great job. He did fairly well in the Democratic primaries. He was smart enough to take a job in the Biden administration to put him in position. If it's not 2024, maybe 2028, maybe 3032. He's a young man. But I'm asking now, should Biden step out? And if he steps out, would Buttigieg be the person? Would there be a fight between Kamala Harris and Buttigieg, or who else could rise? Bernie Sanders is clearly, I think, at this point, and I'm not, for a guy who's turning 65 in a few days, I'm certainly not espousing ageism, but I think that Bernie's ship may have sailed chronologically. So if anyone has, and I apologize for that, if anybody has, yeah, they do need a grassroots candidate, Meg. I agree with you. They absolutely do. And I don't know who that would be. Could Buttigieg galvanize enough of the gay vote to push him over? Could he push? Would that be enough to push him over? I know one thing. I know the Republicans are coming back with blood in their eyes next time. And if it's the former guy, we don't know what his legal problems are going to. I'm kind of like caught in between. Certainly, he should not be anywhere near the White House after what he did with 1-6. That's just, well, I've said it many times. If Barack Obama had done that, how far under Leavenworth would he be right now if he was still alive? But this group, they get away with any and everything because they got the numbers. And the numbers seem to indicate that America is still not only far right, but is on the verge of racism. You know, to support some of the policies of this Republican Party that this guy has transformed, and nobody, you know, Mitch McConnell was a person of principle. He could very easily stand up and rescue the party, and we would have two viable parties. What we have is this crazy fringe wing that produces inept, ridiculous candidates like Herschel Walker, who, as a black person, I'm embarrassed for the crazy, bizarre stuff that he says, or Dr. Oz, who lives in New Jersey and is running for the Senate over in Pennsylvania, and other kooks. The guy out in the guy that's running for governor of Pennsylvania. I mean, just crazy fringe candidates, and those are the guys that this country is supporting because that's what the former guy does. That's who he is supporting. So I don't know, man. I just don't know who we got to look at. Who are you saying? Yeah, robbery. I just don't know. I don't know who it is. Fern, what Democrat would you like to see run? I'm sure somebody you'd like to see win. I thought when the Republicans nominated the former guy, that would be an easy victory for our nominee. And it turns out just everything different. A greater concern is that governors in these Republican, in these red states are appointing secretaries of states who literally, you could have a majority vote at the polls, and these secretary of states can go in and change who gets voted on by the electors that go to Washington. That's a aberration of our democracy, and that's scary. I don't care what side of the aisle or who it supports. That's scary that our democracy would be put in peril. Now, enough of politics. We're going to deal with some strong issues in a couple of weeks. Like I said, we're going to deal with replacement theory. And just when we were saying that it's a reality, they come out with it. And so we'll talk about that. But let's just. So, Fern, Yellowstone. Let's see. Uh, yeah, I don't know if Harris can do it. She has isolated so many people. She isolated Simone Sanders, who was uh, her basically her communications person, and Simone was there to support her. She did a fantastic job for Bernie Sanders and switched over to Kamala when she was elected. And she just isolated so many people. So I don't know. I just don't know. Fern, let's talk about Yellowstone. Let's talk about some of these TV programs. Uh, Yellowstone. So Kim was down here and he was telling us, he said, Dozell, I know you like Dallas. He said, if you like Dallas, he said, you'll love Yellowstone. What he didn't tell me was that Beth was as bad as J.R. Ewing. She is absolutely the female version of J.R. Ewing. I would have loved to see the two of them in character uh, face off with each other on screen. That would have been something to behold. But during Lent, we were on a fast track to, we was down, I think, season 2 when Lent kicked in. And when Lent kicked in, I kind of fasted from at least programs that I didn't want to see certain storylines or hear certain language or stuff like that. So I fasted from Yellowstone's one of the things that I put on hold. My wife continued to watch it. And as soon as Lent was over, she was trying to get me back in front of the TV screen. And I see why she was so excited to get me. It was really some program. My hat's off to Kevin Costner. I have never seen him play a role like that. It just goes to his versatility as an actor. So Fern, if you're still with us, which villain, oh not villain, but who was the baddest? Was it J.R. Ewing, or was it the girl from Yellowstone? Mate, do you look at Yellowstone? Did you see Yellowstone? I understand now it's now being broadcast. Season 5 is being broadcast. It's on the Paramount Network. A lot of people are just waiting until the season's over and catching it on Netflix and binging it. But I totally enjoyed every bit of it. And I'm like my wife, I could go back and look at it again, actually. I just don't choose to do that. Let me tell you what I'm looking at again now. I was an absolute scandal holic. Did anybody look at Scandal? I was an absolute scandal holic. Now, Tim Johnson, when you come back on, this is the closest, unless I'm in Jacksonville when I'm doing the show and Anthony lets me hold one of his Sharks jerseys, this is as close as you're going to see me wear Shark colors. A golf jersey that I had in the closet, had never worn it. I tore the stickers off of it and everything because I didn't want to wear black tonight. So I wore the red cap and the white. So you, unless I'm with Anthony, he lets me hold one of his old jerseys. When we do this, when you come back on, I may not be wearing Shark colors. This was just shot to get me Shark colors. I'm just joking, no big deal. So Beth is her name. Okay, so you didn't watch Yellowstone. If you got a Netflix subscription, if you look at the first 2 episodes, Mac, you'll be totally hooked on it. I guarantee you. So Scandal is back on. It's on the Bravo network. They're showing reruns of it on the Bravo network. It's not streamed, which means that you have to record it. So I'm so busy. I intend to see the episode that I recorded the night before the next day. I never get a chance to. So I've been doing it on weekends, just kind of binging it. Just binging. If I can get 3 or 4 episodes in so I can delete them off of my space, that's what I've been doing. How'd you like Scandal, Mac? What a storyline, such creativity. Man, my hat's off to Shonda Rhimes. She not only had Scandal going on at one time, she had How to Commit Murder. I think that's the name of it. She had like 3. So I think Thursday night they called was Shondaland. She had 3 top 10 programs. And even now, I go back and look at the creativity, the writing. Yeah, absolutely awesome. I'm a sucker for good writing and the plot twisted scandal offered all of the characters. It was when it ended, I was like so sad. I was like, why are they ending Scandal? Why are they ending? Just like I was with Power. I was looking at Power, and I was so mad at what's the girl that does Power? I can't. I don't mean the girl, but the lady that does Power. I'm an old man, so I do that, but I understand that it sounds paternal. Mm. I can see her, but I can't call her name. She just signed on with Netflix, but I love breaking food and better. I'm trying to see called Saul. I like Breaking Bad. Oh, okay. All right. I got to look at that. I've not heard of that. I got to check that out. But the young lady that I can't think of her name, who who ended who decided to end Power. I thought that was a sexist move. She took a lot of characters out, but she took out James St. Patrick, uh, who was just man. He was just that kid. I'm wondering why he's not a bigger movie star. He played that role to the T, and she took him out. But then she turned around and made a genius move. I have to applaud creativity. She took she took Ghost out. That was his nickname on camera. Uh, can't think of his name now. Amari Harwood. She took him out, killed him off the show in that series, but she now has four offshoots from it. That was a genius move of her and 50 Cent. And I can see her face and can't think of her name. I was such in love with that franchise that I loved what they had was Power Confidential with Power Confidential that came on after the episode where they would interview people who were in that episode and talk about their Terrence J hosted it. That was Power. It's dark. I understand that. But it was just absolutely awesome. But she kills that, and she has four spinoffs from Power. She has one that had the 50 Cent character when he was a kid growing up. And I even found that I like that. The major program in the franchise is Ghost Power Book 2. That stars um, uh, Ghost's son. And boy, was he hated, especially when they found out that he, of course, killed his dad. He was already hated because he was getting to be a spoiled brat. He carries that show so well. It's an awesome show. Power Book 2. I'm looking at Power Force. We all knew that the Tommy character would probably have the best show, maybe along with the top of the franchise, the one with the son in it. But I put it on suspension during Lent, and I'm just kept trying to catch up with it also. And honestly, so far I'm probably 4 through 8 episodes. It's got to pick up for me to say that it's the better one. And the one that I'm really looking forward to that has not come out yet, it has Tate. Tate was, of course, played by Lars Tate. He's going to be the fourth power of the fourth piece of the franchise that's going to come out, and he's going to play the crooked politician that he plays. And because I'm a drama and don't have to have all the shooting and the murdering and stuff, I'm really looking to see how well Courtney Kemp, that's her name. I'm having a senior moment. I'm really waiting to see how that comes out. And so Taraji is the one in it. So I gotta see that. I gotta see that. I gotta look at that. Like I say, during the pandemic, I fell in love with a lot of those shows. And Imposters. If anybody, you just want something that's cute, that's not so violent, it's creative, it's funny, it's intuitive, it's imaginative, it will definitely get your attention. That's what Imposters was. I think it's still available on Netflix. You get disappointed when you run to the end of season 2 and it abruptly ends and they don't renew it. So we've covered some good TV programs. Kerry Washington. I would love to see a program with Kerry Washington and Amari Harrick. That would be something. A lot of people had issues about the storyline of Scandal. This sister like in this white presidential candidate, but it's a sign of the times. It's reality of life, and you just it's for mature artists anyway. So everybody should be looking at that, and you should be at a certain level of maturity, spirituality, and everything to be able to handle that and put it in context. Entertainment. If it's affecting your spirit, you don't look at it. That's how we do it. Listen, tonight's before we sign off, and let me just give you some snapshot into the upcoming programs on next week. On next week, the biggest personality we've had to date on the dialogue. We're still trying to get Reverend Al Sharpton and the likes. I blew the shout out. I did want to do the Bethel Church. I wanted to shout out the Bethel Church right there in Jacksonville on Bethel Baptist Boulevard. The Bethel Church, when they would always do a scholarship walk in the community that was a fundraiser for the people of their church and their community. And they raised, I can't tell you how much, but I know it was nowhere near what they're doing. When the pandemic struck, the executive pastor, Bishop McKissick's wife, Junior's wife, Pastor Kim McKissick, came up with the creative idea, watching all of the stuff that like Toya's doing with us now, and Go Giga's doing with us now. She saw BET and other awards programs continuing virtually. She came up with the concept of a virtual scholathon. And man, what a winner she has. So last night, some of the highlights of it was, they had the fraternities pitted against each other. They had the HBCUs pitted against each other. They had the PWIs involved last year because some of us, like I tried to finish at Bethune-Cookman, they were on the quarter system. I need to maintain my house, so I finished over at UCF. Some of us finished with PWIs, but we had a loyal standing. I was a Cookmanite because I was there in Daytona. I was a policeman there in Daytona. In fact, I drove the president. I chauffeured him. And but my son went to FAMU, and I can't tell you how much money that saved us because he got a football scholarship to FAMU, and now he's making great money because of that FAMU. So they pitted the colleges against each other, the military branches against each other. The big thing was the fraternities against each other, sororities against each other, and the two of them against each other. And all of them put in competition. I know the military's raffled off a TV, a gigantic screen TV. And I just thought it was so creative that every child that school, that ministry supports would have a decent piece of scholarship as they go off to school. Last night, the highlights was Reverend Al Sharpton and attorney Ben Crump were on the show. But the real highlight of it, and it was last year, Bishop McKissick is good friends with, I don't know if you know Bishop William Murphy. This is my season for grace, for favor. Well, I can't sing, but anyway, that he's a singer of that. It was also, hey Warren, how you doing, brother? Hi, Doc. They had, these are his covenant brothers. Bishop has no brothers or sisters. He's the only child. These are his covenant brothers. Bishop William Murphy, Pastor Jamal Bryan out of New Birth in Atlanta, Pastor Marvin Sapp out of Texas now, Marvin Sapp, and Brother Antonio. These are his covenant brothers. You talk about clowning, man. Them boys could put a show on TV and put Martin to sleep. And I'm a big Martin fan. Now, here's the thing about it. They are real Christians, real Christians. They are men of the cloth, bishops. Most of them pastor large churches. But yet they are human enough that they can come together and joke and have fun, have a great time, and be about a great cause like a scholarship fund. When they signed off last night at midnight, they had raised $107,000, and they were still counting. Checks and other things were still coming. They were on their way to the $150,000. So I just want to give the Bethel Church and everybody who contributed, everybody who was a part of it, and especially because of his dynamic leadership, Pastor and Pastor Kim, Pastor Rudolph Jr. and Kim McKissick, Bishop McKissick and Pastor Kim McKissick for the leadership of that. And I also want to applaud Pastor McKissick, Bishop McKissick, because he didn't force a guilt trip on people during the heart of the pandemic and say, you can go everywhere else, you need to bring your butt to church. No, he played it smart, and they kept that sanctuary totally empty because the people were dedicated. They followed virtually, and he systematically and very lately has he started letting people come back into the church. Funerals were highly social distance and everything. So I just want to give them a shout out for the leadership at the Bethel Church. Now we want to close the night show. Well, next week again, Nikki Freed, who is, and thank you, Brother Warren, for sister helping us bring these candidates on. Dr. Crabb, thank you so much. Go back and look at the show last week with him, and his show comes on Tuesday at 7:30 on Facebook Live. His name is Warren Crabb, Dr. Warren Crabb. He was a great guest last week. He's an author. But we got Nikki Freed and Kasia Early, who is running for a county judgeship. This sister has a spiritual testimony. The two of them will be on next Monday night on the dialogue. And did I say next Monday night? No, the 15th. Actually, Kim will be doing the dialogue on next week. On the 15th, they'll be with us. And in the upcoming weeks, we have John Allen Newman is coming back on, probably with Daisy Grimes, and if we can get some others to come on to kind of represent the other side. We want to talk about replacement theory. We want to dive into that. And so that's where we're headed. I'm a minute over, but the night show is dedicated. Usually we do the dedications in the beginning. But tonight's show is dedicated to 3 souls who have transitioned in the last week. Last week, you may have heard me talk about Ashley Harden. She was a young girl, contemporary of my daughter's. She was brutally murdered in Rockford, Illinois. And she was a songbird, a beautiful spirit, a loving mother of 2 young children. And our heart goes out to the family. She was funeralized on this past Saturday. This episode of the dialogue is dedicated to Ashley Harden. It's also dedicated to Nichelle Nicole. Nichelle, I was not a Trekkie, but I grew up in the 60s, so I saw that pretty girl on Star Trek, and I saw her age gracefully. She left us Saturday night at age 89. I just saw her recently on Al Sharpton's show, and she left us. So we thank you for everything that you brought. Let me tell a brief story about her, and I know I'm over a minute. Nichelle had a kiss, and people thought it was the first interracial kiss on TV, but they're thinking it was more like the one on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Sidney Poitier. But she had a kiss with, what's the guy, Captain Spark. And not being a Trekkie, I didn't see it, but people thought that was revolutionary in that time, that this beautiful black sister kissed this white sex symbol on TV, and a lot was made of it. But we think here's the story behind it. She was a Broadway actress and singer and dancer, and she happened to get the role on Star Trek that many people would have loved to have had. And she ran into Dr. King. And Dr. King, she told Dr. King who she was, and Dr. King already knew her because I guess he looked at Star Trek. And she told him that she was 99% sure that she was not going to return after the first year. And he told her, oh, no, sis, you got to stay on that program. What you're doing is you're opening the door for other sisters and brothers that Hollywood has not opened the door to. And your superb acting skills, your giftedness will cause others to come in. So she said, based on that, and so the rest is history. This is what she's known for. And she was an activist of sorts also. So our heart, our love goes out to the family, and we're grateful for you too, sis, for blazing our trail. And also, my hero, one of my many heroes, the show is also dedicated tonight for Mr. William F. Russell, Bill Russell, the greatest champion that the NBA has ever known. He's won 11 championships. It's a combination of coach and player with the Boston Celtics. But here's what I like about Bill Russell. So Russell was a five, the center. He was a rodman. He was a defensive grade. He was never known for being a prolific scorer. People often sleep on his scoring. He could shoot, but that wasn't his forte. His forte was defense and rebounding. Well, that's what I was, because I played the five at 6'3", and that's about all I could do is sneak in and get a rebound and shoot a bone and get out of there and get an outlet pass. Well, Russell had it down. He blocked shots to a science, and I watched him. He didn't just block shots that get up to stop the ball from going in. He blocked them to his teammates. But what I really liked about Bill Russell, his gifts far parlayed greater than the basketball court. Bill Russell stood up with Dr. King, along with Muhammad Ali and the great Jim Brown. They stood up and were activists and he played in possibly the most racist sports town in America, particularly when he was playing. That was Boston. And he was the first black coach in the NBA. And so Bill Russell stood up until he really became weakened. He always was a drum major for justice in everything that he did. And so we thank God for sending him our way. I first was really saddened and shocked when I saw that he died. And then I had to revert back to something that I espoused on yesterday. What Bill Russell did was he stepped into a room, changed clothes, and stepped over into another community. So we thank God for sending these three souls our way. The dialogue salute you. Listen, we're done. Thank you, Toya, for those 8 minutes over. We love you. We don't know what happened to Tim. We'll get him later on the dialogue. Remember, week after next, we got Nikki Freed on the show and Casey Early. Dialogue with Dozell's family, you and Dozell, you guys are the absolute best. We love you, Mac. We love you, Fern. We love you, Mama. Everybody who signed on, God bless you. We'll see you next Monday night. Thanks, Dr. Crab.